Science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.
Evidence is evidence. It's public. Everybody can look at the evidence and assess it, and eventually, if there's enough evidence, come to the same conclusion.
For newcomers and old-timers alike, the Chloe Sanctuary hopes to give you insight into the health and happiness of your companion parrots. We hope to help you build happy homes using reliable and proven tools. The best homes are built on a rock-solid foundation. And the best foundation for a happy home is the bedrock of science. When we stand on the shoulders of giants, the scientists who have worked long and diligently to understand our companions, we can reach new heights of understanding. And understanding is the key to success. What does avian veterinary medicine have to tell us about our feathered friends? How can we prevent illness, see the signs of disease before it's too late, and care for our birds through ill health? What light does behavioral science shed on their nature, needs, and hopes? How can the tools of behavior shaping make our homes happier for us and our companions? How can we deal with biting, screaming, or other misbehavior? What is it like to live among parrots? Let them roam around about you and share a life with them. How much freedom do you give them? What happens if you form a bond of trust with them? Watch and see what understanding their true nature can do for you. Come with us on a journey as we do more than examine a parrot's world. We live in it. Make some popcorn and bring in a few wood blocks. Let everyone have something to chew and a comfortable place to perch. Cockatude is a presentation of the Chloe Sanctuary for Parrots and Cockatoos, a nonprofit charity dedicated to the empowerment of captive parrots and public awareness.
Hi, and welcome to episode 52 of Cockatude, From Egg to Old Age. Yeah, we're going to talk today about the stages of life and whatever else Salamander wants to bring up. Do you have something else you'd like to say, Salamander? It's easy for you to say. Mander, great salamander bird. It's a great salamander. Salamander beard. And today we have with us our newest member of our flock. Are you saying hello to Lucy? This is Lucy. Lucy, you want to strut yourself? Strut yourself for the camera. See, there's a camera over there, see? Very strange room, isn't it? It's a very strange room. So Lucy. Yeah. This is Lucy. She has feather destructive behavior. She's chewed her chest to the point where the follicles, I believe, are all... You'll be over here. Keep it up. Don't do that, Salamander. Or you'll be over here. Sometimes I think that's where he's going for. Well, I'll bring you over. You're far too cute. Do you know that? And you're far too noisy. You're not helping. Okay? Calm down. Mander, if you don't calm down, you'll be over here. She has feather destructive behavior. She's chewing on She's chewing on her feathers, breaking her feathers. All right. Come here. Sit on my leg. You. Shush. Shush. You're just cameras. You deal with this all the time. Snowball, leave it alone. It's hard to say. The follicles are probably dead on her chest. But we do have a protocol, and what we do is we give Medicam on a really high dosage, which in England now they did, I should say Great Britain, they did a study and there was no effect. There was no change in the blood chemistry when they were doing relatively high doses of Medicam. So sometimes that'll stimulate the follicles to come back as it did on sugar. She had follicles that were out of round and they were producing blood feathers every time, so that was a nightmare. She almost died almost 3 times because of that problem. I gotta be careful with this one. This is one you really have to pet on the head, and then only rarely, because she just tends to get into mating behavior and you don't want them to do that. So you don't want the territoriality that comes with that. Right, Lucy? Right, Luce? You just like to sit there, don't you? She likes to sit here. This is like her favorite spot in this room. She'll start moving around and getting involved in other stuff later, won't you, kid? We have with us today Salamander. Of course, he's already made himself quite well known. And Snowball. And Peaches. And Peaches. And Sugarbird. And Coco. And up on my shoulder is Bob. Bob still has his sinus problem. He gets medicine in his nair on that side twice a day. Don't you, Bob? And if that doesn't work, I'm going to have to give him intramuscular antibiotics in the chest, and we're hoping that doesn't happen. Right, Bob? You're not too thrilled by that idea. Whoa. You get out here and play, cutie pie. And we also have Chloe sitting over there in her box. Right, Chloe? There was something written by Leonardo da Vinci, which I think really is fitting for this particular episode. Once you have flown, you will walk the earth with your eyes turned upward. For there you have been, and there you long to return. Right, guys? So, you know, their life cycle has similarity to ours. Their life cycle has some similarities to ours, but a lot of differences. They're hatched from an egg that comes out of the female, sat on by the male and female in the wild. And it's a lot less stressful to hatch from an egg than it is to come into the world the way mammals do, which is rather shocking. They get to know the heartbeat of both their mother and their father in the wild. So in that stage where they're just an egg being kept warm, you leave him alone. I saw you creeping up. You're not going to mess with him. No, you leave him alone, okay? You don't mess with the salamander. Let him sit there and yes, he wants to be part of the circle. You don't need to do this, okay? Don't know what you got against the salamander, but you can leave him alone, okay? Snowball? You big snowball, little buddy.
Peaches is an amazing personality. Her daily maintenance requires dedication and mindfulness. She requires 2 forms of medicine, 7-course meals, and effort to entice her to eat. Extensive preening every day, special tools to trim nails, constant attention to her vocalizations, daily walks, and twice yearly checkups due to the possibility of impacted feather follicles and the nature of her spinal injuries. It seems a common misconception among the general public that parrots are like toys in a toy box. Nothing could be further from the truth. They are complex creatures. Recently, scientific studies have shown them to be at least as intelligent as chimpanzees. Every captive parrot needs special humans who will dedicate themselves to understanding them, those who know their species as it lives in the wild. Special people that understand their social, mental, and physical needs. They need to be understood for what they are, and not as merely human companions, as circus performers to bring smiles. Peaches needs all this and more. She is our special girl. Will you help us care for Peaches? Please make a donation today at our website, chloesanctuary.org. That's spelled CHLOESANCTUARY.org. As a special thank you for your donation, we will joyfully send you a postcard with Peach's happy face.
And in captivity, what breeders do, instead of, the parents sitting on the egg, it's... I see them. Instead, they're put in an incubator, and so that the parents can lay another set of eggs, which is a few more $1,000. But so from the very beginning, in captivity, they are separated from their parents, where in the wild they would actually be feeling their heartbeat and feeling the warmth of their mother and father. In captivity, they're in a machine. Hi, Coco. That's a beautiful set of wings you got there, kid. It is. Beautiful set of wings. Yeah. So the first thing they see when they come out of the egg in the wild, they see, their mother or their father. Generally, they'll be there at that time, but there may only be a father there or a mother. They both take care of the young the same way. They both feed it. They both care for it. One little one. I'm so used to having Peach sitting here on my chest and catching myself petting her improperly. Definitely don't want to do that with a new bird coming into your environment. So I try to keep my hands off her except to touch her head. I do that fairly well when I'm not talking to cameras. When I'm talking to cameras, I do lose my focus a little bit, don't I? I do. So here in the wild, they're surrounded when they come out of the egg, when they break the egg open and they see the world, they see their parents, they see the hollow of the tree, possibly some siblings, one other sibling. There's one other sibling with them. And that's the first environment they come to. Where in captivity, what they see is quite different. A sterile environment, usually it's more like an aquarium setup. And then this human, gives them food, sometimes with a little tube down in their throat, sometimes they feed it to them with a little spoon, that kind of thing, or a syringe. More times than not, in the big breeders, they're going to be feeding them with a tube down their throat. Leave him alone. You don't need to go for him. He's a good bird. He's not trying to do anything to you. And you're trying to defend territory. I know, but I don't think you need to do that. He's the one. Snowball's the one with the mate aggression, and it seems like he has become more aggressive to other birds. Not all, but he's become more aggressive to some other birds since this happened to him. Right, Snowball? He's still a sweetie, though, aren't you? You're still a sweetheart. Just gotta watch you close. Peaches says, I don't know. He doesn't seem like a sweetheart to me. I don't trust him. That's kind of the look she has on her face. So then in the wild, the parents come in and regurgitate food for their babies. And as the babies grow and get bigger, they're eventually starting to fledge. They get their feathers, and that whole time they're being taught by their parents. We know from research done by the Cornell Ornithology Lab that parrotlets in Brazil, the mother teaches the baby its name. They have names and they call each other by names, and no matter how large the flock is, they know each other's names. So we're inferring from that this would be true of all parrots, right, Bob? Right, Bob? So they're learning. They're learning from the moment that they're hatched. And in captivity, there's not much learning going on. They're just being fed, trying to get them, older so they can wean them and then sell them. Some breeders may be better about it than others, but in general, it's a pretty emotionless kind of situation. Where they don't have any role models. There's no role models. It's not quite like sitting inside of a hollow of a tree and just imagine, here comes your parent landing on the hollow, looking down, checking on you, comes over, gives you food. It's a little different than somebody coming up with a syringe that has a tube on it, sticking it down your throat, right? So in the wild, they're starting to learn from the very beginning, right? They're learning about who their parents are, and they're learning their name. And who knows what else they're teaching. Let's face it, we don't have enough research done in the field to know exactly what's going on, what they're taught. But we do know they have about a year and a half juvenile dependency period. One of the longest in any species that you're going to find is going to be in parrots. Humans we know how long that dependency period is, right? In our world, it's 18 years. In theirs, it's a year and a half. And of course, their longevity for the larger parrots, the majority of the larger parrots live, 60, 70, 80 years or more. In light of that time that they live, it seems like a short juvenile dependency period. How long does it take a puppy or a kitten before it's weaned and on its own? Not that long. And then they have what they need to go on. With these guys, they have a lot to learn. So a lot of vocalizations and other behavior they learn. When they fledge, they get their flight feathers, and at one point they take off and fly. They're encouraged to fly by their parents, and they fly. Right, Lucy? Right, Lucy? Since I don't know about all these birds in here. Lucy, you've got some splaining to do. Why you're just sitting there? She goes, just too many birds. Too many birds all over the place, right? Now, in captivity, they're not encouraged to fly. That's not a good thing because flying builds up a lot of muscle. And one of the things we know, these birds tend to get, in their later years, they tend to get fatty liver disease. Sometimes even in their early years because of improper feeding. If you're feeding them just seed, then they could get fatty liver disease early on. But as they get older, because of the lack of exercise, that can cause a lot of problems. When they're young and they're growing towards adolescence, before they're weaned, they are given a hand feeding formula. Usually it's KT Exact. There's other ones too. It's basically a powder that you mix and heat up, and you give it to them at a certain temperature, okay? And it's critical. If you give it to them too hot, you end up with someone like Coco, who can't swallow food because her crop has been burned, and once that scar tissue is there, you're not going to get rid of it, okay? So that permanently damages them, but I guess some breeders have a way of saying, well, this is what she likes to eat, just feed her this. That seems to be what happened to Coco. Well, all she needs is oatmeal, peanut butter, and bananas. And when you mash that up, it's just a paste, and she can eat that. But in the wild, they're being brought a lot of different things, in the form of regurgitation first, and then once they start to fly, they learn that you can eat from these trees, and you can this place is a safe place to go, and we roost over here. There's all these different things they learn out in this world, okay? We fly here sometimes to get food. We go over here to get food at this time of the year. They learn all these different places they can go with the flock. They learn how to live in a flock, how to notify each other of danger. They learn all the basics of community life. So, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to move my foot so fast, but my foot was slipping, so I moved it. I apologize. Is that okay? Is that okay with you? All right. As long as it's okay with this owl. Peaches, you're just sitting there, baby. It's all right. This guy is focused on Sal. He's not going to go after you right now. And he's being pretty good. He's just looking. He's not hurting anybody. Do you want to back up? Snowball, come here. Back up just a little bit. I know. You're just being a good defender. I know. It is ignorance of Bob's nature that turned Babalu into a living gargoyle. Bob's would-be parents made a hasty choice and found themselves in living hell, torn between guilt and frustration. I have seen the joy in Babalu's eyes now that he has a new life with me as his companion. To see Babalu love and trust again is worth the effort of a lifetime. But, once again, Bob is heading toward the pain of separation. My heart nearly broke the day I discovered that he was heading toward a cloacal prolapse, that his life will be cut short. To find love and acceptance and then have it stolen away from you by failing health is too much to bear. We can slow the progress of his failing health, but we can't stop it. He will need several surgeries, and eventually Babalu will die. We want to give him the best possible life until that day. His surgeries will become progressively more expensive over time. Won't you please lend Babalu a hand and donate to his medical fund today? So there's this wide world of things that they can do and places that they can play. And in the middle of the day, they'll go in the hotter portion of the day, they'll go and play and take a nap. And there's all this stuff that they do. But in our world, they just sit somewhere on a perch and they're given food and maybe a few toys to play with. Maybe. And they wait until they grow old enough where they can try to force them to stop eating. As soon as they can get them weaned, then they can sell them. There's a law in California that you can't sell unweaned parrots, but what they do is they force them to wean far too early. What I learned is that they should wean themselves. Because in the wild, that's what they do. They wean themselves. Oh, what's going on over here? Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to hit you on the head with it. You got stuff hanging? I thought so. Bob, hold on.
Hello.
Let me see. Oh boy. Yeah, you still got a problem there, don't you? My poor boy. You know what? I never could have been a basketball player. Yes, Bob has a cloacal prolapse and he has stitches in there to hold everything in. We'll get to do that a few more times, and then he'll have a major surgery where his internal organs will be tied up to his ribs, and then that's the last. Whoops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to touch you. So this is, if you don't know, what you see here, the noise and the vibration means he's having a mating response, and you don't want to encourage that kind of thing. You don't want to make them feel bad about it, because it's natural. You just want to back off. Okay. And she likes being in here. She's being terribly quiet. I think it's just the fact that the bright lights are on. We normally have these lights in here very dim. Okay, the lights are dim and they're watching a movie. at least there's a movie on the background. Salamander's watching it. And then, each of them will watch some of it. You're going to bother her now? Don't bother her. Don't do that to her. Snowball. Don't push him around. Be nice. You okay over there, Peach? You okay? So they have this wide world of things out in the wild and this very limited environment where they don't get a lot of... They don't get a lot... Yes, I know you don't like the cameras, Coco. They don't get a lot of interaction. And they're encouraged to stop eating hand-feeding formula as soon as possible because then they can be called weaned and sold. With Lorelei, she was the only bird I ever raised, and she wouldn't come in here today. But with Lorelei, it was 1 year and 3 months. She was 1 year and 3 months old when she finally decided to wean herself. And she still comes up and asks for hand-feeding formula. It's actually mash that I give to Coco because Coco needs, she needs good nutrition and she can't just be eating oatmeal, peanut butter, and bananas for the rest of her life. So, do you mind? Do you mind? What are you doing? Why are you walking on my arm? No, you don't need to mess with her. I know you want to preen her. She's not going to understand that yet. She doesn't. You know her. These two knew each other in the past. So I don't know what crossed over that bridge between these two, but they did know each other, didn't you guys? Huh? Didn't you? Lucy. So quiet today. Yesterday she was all getting into things and bouncing all over me, and today she's just like, what's going on? This is very strange and very bright. I know, but you run cameras, girl. You gotta have brightness. So then, after they've gone and they've been taught by the flock, this is what you eat, and this is the different places we go, and this is what we do at different times of day. Once they've got that routine down and they kind of know the world they live in, what are you doing? Eating my pants? No, you're not going to take the button off my pocket. No. That's better than trying to chase him, but I don't want you taking the button off my pocket. Because then I got to sew it back on, you silly bird. Yeah. You're a silly bird. For the larger parrots, it's about 3.5 years of age where they become sexually mature. And emotionally, 5 or 6 years of age, they become full adults emotionally. So, similar to humans, they become sexually mature at adolescence, and then they move into adulthood. In the wild, they're going to be looking for a mate, and they're going to start experimenting. They're going to go around and show their feathers and displaying. That's what all that stuff is. When you say, "Oh, my bird is happy because he's got his wings out," my bird's displaying. It's a like, here I am kind of thing that's built in. They do it. Yeah, it's built in, isn't it? Display. Yeah. They're strutting their wares is what they're doing. In captivity, a lot of times when they do these behaviors, they're encouraged to do them, and people don't realize that those behaviors are mating behaviors, and they're encouraging another behavior, which is mate territoriality. So if you get a bird and they got their wings out and they're going like this, and you start petting them improperly under the wings, that kind of thing, then you're going to have a bird that, once it becomes territorial, will start doing things like warning you that person over there, you shouldn't be around, nip. And you go, my bird bit me out for no reason at all. Well, we're just blind to the reasons that they have for doing things. They have good, solid reasons for their behaviors. They're missing they're missing a lot of development that they should have had in the wild, where they saw a lot of things and learned situations, and they're just kind of winging it. I know, that's a pun, but so they're going to be looking for a mate. Now this happens in our world too. They're trying to find a mate. They don't know quite what they're looking for, but they know they want to bond with someone. They only know humans for the most part, so they'll try to bond with a human. If you allow that to happen, then there's problems. If you don't allow that to happen, then there's problems. You want to err on the side of not allowing it to happen. If you have a bird that's severely damaged, like Sugar was or Bob was, then you need to do whatever's necessary to make them feel secure in the world. But once you make that choice, as with Bob, then you're going to get certain behaviors. If someone gets too close to me, he'll defend me, and that defense can be pretty fierce. You know, these guys normally in the wild, if someone tries to steal their mate and the bird that's trying to do it is insistent, then they'll go for the eyes. I mean, they'll fight to the death. So a 1-pound bird can do a lot of damage if it thinks that its mate's being threatened. So now on the other side of it, they can't mate, as with Lorelei, because at that point in the wild, she would be choosing a mate. She'd be trying to find a male and looking for a male that was single, right? Basically doing the dating thing. Well, she tries to do that. She tries to do that here, and the choices are. She tries to do that here, and unfortunately, if she were to succeed in becoming bonded to Cecil or to Snowball, what's going to happen then is she's going to start doing hen behavior, where she doesn't care much about anything else. She's going to sit in a box and dig and try to nest and have babies. And at that point, she's not going to be able to live with humans because humans aren't going to want that. They want a bird that will do behaviors that they find, fun and interesting. If a bird isn't interested in you and just wants to sit in a box all day long, that's not you. You like to play. Yeah. Because that's a salamander. It's a big old salamander bird. Yeah. What you doing? You're worried about him? I'll move him back. Is that what you want? Is that what you wanted? Okay. Took me a little while to read you. I'm sorry. I had other things on my mind. Now, when they've been raised by a breeder, if the breeder's buying the best food for them and preparing fresh vegetables every day and giving them a little bit of fruit and the proper pellets, that's a little expensive. So they generally don't do that kind of thing. Now, when I say generally don't, for example, Lorelei, all the birds that this woman had, where I got her, before I really started knowing what I was doing, and started studying and took classes, all of her birds were, she said they were all low weight. They're all in the upper 400 grams to the lower 5s, which is low for an umbrella. What are you doing? Oh, yeah. You be nice to her now, okay? You be nice. That's Lucy. Coco, Lucy. Coco, Lucy. That's Luce. She's just sitting there. Peach, what are you doing way over there? Come here. I'll hold you up here if that's what you want. You want me to hold you? Okay. You be nice down there, Snowball. So, let's see, get back to where I was. Lorelei, I had to keep her away from males because obviously that mating instinct gets really strong. In the wild, they would just go and find a mate. In captivity, if you let them mate, then they lose interest in people. So if something happens and she has to go somewhere else, I die, the sanctuary were to fold because we couldn't get enough funds to keep going, something like that. And if for some reason they had to go to different places, people would not want to take her and care for her because she wouldn't have an interest in people at all. She'd be wanting to nest and try to find a mate, and she'd be looking for another bird at that point. She would lose interest in humans. So that's the other danger, okay? In fact, I remember one gentleman was telling me, he said, I forget what kind of a bird it was. I think it was an Amazon. He said, I had an Amazon and it was kind of fun to play with. You hear some pretty strange stories, but he said, oh, it was kind of fun to play with, but I thought it was lonely, so I got him a female. He said, and then they didn't pay any attention to me at all, so I got rid of them. Well, that's just the way it is. In the wild, they pair up. It's kind of like your friends, right? You got a friend gets married, and you don't hear from them much anymore because you're single, and they're not, and they're gone, right? If you think of it that way, you'll see why you don't want to do that. But at the same time, it puts a lot of stress on them. It puts a lot of stress on them if they can't mate. So, it's all right, baby. Chloe, no. No. Chloe, no. Chloe, you stay away from Snowball. Now I have to keep her away from Snowball because he'll hurt her. It's not funny, Bob. He'll hurt her. He's become mate aggressive. That happens in captivity. So that's okay if they're that close, but if they get any closer, I gotta separate. I gotta take her and put her back over in the box. And why do I put her in a box? Because she was shacking up with Snowball for a while, for 5 years. So she's got that hen attitude. She's okay around people, but she's not the kind of bird that's going to show any human, much interest anymore. And since she was losing weight and we tried everything and couldn't get her to want to live. I mean, it's pretty obvious she didn't want to live. I let her go ahead and form a bond with him. And now I look back and go, well, maybe I should have just kept trying to find some other way. But she's come back a ways, haven't you, Chloe? She's like, yeah, a little bit. You stay away from him. That's right. It's about as close as I'll let you get, okay? And usually these two I'm trying to point, and if I lift my hands off your head, you start screaming. They're usually, these two perches are separated. One's over here and one's over there. But the way my iPhone works, if you put it there and a bird moves onto it, it's going to focus on the bird and then it blurs the background. So you can fix that. You can lock it in position. But I don't like to do that because there is some movement and I like to track it. So anyway. Good boy, come here. Come here. Come here. You big silly bird. Leave Lucy alone. I know you just want to preen her. I know what you want to do. The reason I know what he wants to do is because I already saw him try to do it several times. She's not ready to be preened. She's not ready to be preened right now by anybody else. And she's still trying to figure this room out. And now, of course, I've got these bright lights on, so it's what's going on. They haven't been taught much, so they don't really know what's going on. And now they end up either as breeders, where they're not really going to be handled by people and they don't have any interest in people. They're just producing eggs and the eggs are being taken from them. Or they're going to be going to someone's home, and depending on the level of the knowledge of the person who has them, they're going to either live their lives in a cage and a little bit out on a perch, with a very limited set of experiences, probably not very many toys, and that usually drives them a little crazy, like it would us. If someone took me and stuck me in a room and gave me very little to do, you know how it is in prisons when they put people in solitary, how they go nuts. That's kind of what happens to these guys. Their species don't just walk around the face of the earth; they fly in the sky. So when you restrict their movement that much, it's really going against the nature of the bird. So now there's physical changes that go on. Obviously, now that they become adults, they're in breeding mode. So they can pretty much breed all year long, but they do have a breeding season. It used to be from November until March. Now, at least in San Diego, I've noticed that the breeding season seems to be from the beginning of October until May or June. So during that time, they're going to be a lot more likely to become stimulated sexually. So you can be holding a male, and like with Roman, you could be holding him, and he'll start flaring his tail out. That's a display. That's a deal where his way of communicating that he is interested in you. Females will start vibrating, like she did just a little while ago. There's a lot of it, and if they're on medication for feather destructive behavior, you usually have to tweak it up a little bit during those periods of time. Anytime there's stress, you want to raise it up just a little bit to cover that stress.
We hope you will consider supporting us on Patreon today. This is how it works. We produce up to 2 videos a month. As a patron, you pledge to give us a donation, whatever you feel is right and meets your budget. Patreon gives us your gift monthly. You can easily set a limit on how much you donate a month. You can change the amount of your pledge at any time. Your gift will allow us to continue bringing you entertaining and informative videos. Patreon.com/Chloe Sanctuary. We look forward to your participation in Cockatude.
Some things I forgot to mention. Hand feeding formula aspiration, where they get that hand feeding formula down the wrong pipe. That's quite frequently the cause of death for many birds. So it's always better to give it to them via syringe if you're going to do it. I really don't think we should be raising babies, but if you're going to do it, give it to them by syringe. And what I mean by that is just put it on the edge of their beak on one side and then on the other. Because that beak is forming, it's not still a little bit soft, and if it's too soft, you can cause scissor beak, where the beak grows out improperly, and they'll have that for life. They'll be going to the vet every 3 to 6 months and having to have their beaks trimmed. So if you can get them to eat from a spoon and just reach over and you can get them to eat out of a spoon, you're better off because they're not going to hurt their beak, but it's probably your best bet. A study was done by Angus and Milan in 1999 on orange-winged Amazons, and the results of the study showed that if a bird is raised by its parents and handled 20 minutes a day, they don't have a lot of these negative behaviors everyone's talking about, the biting, the screaming, the feather picking. Being raised by their parents is the right way to go as far as having a bird that can act normally in the world. And in the manual of parrot behavior, which is the best source for this kind of information I'm talking about, it talks about all the different kinds of psychoses and problems that can be led back to hand rearing. And you'll find it in many different sections where they talk about the source of this problem is hand rearing. So if we can get that to stop and just have them raise these guys in aviaries and let them clutch just 2 that year instead of clutching 10 eggs, we can solve a lot of these problems with these birds and they won't have to suffer so much. So when they become adults and they're living in the wild, here they are mating, they've got their hollow where they're raising their young, and in captivity they're usually living in a cage, just one cage, in one room for a long period of time, and then they're often just moved on to some other human and they're put in another room, just stuck in a cage in one room for long periods of time. And this is a big difference in the way they should live and the way they do live. Now the other thing is that if they haven't been fed right from the beginning, when they're with the breeder's giving them one kind of food and they're getting used to it, then the breeder tries to wean them and they give them something else, whatever it is they're feeding them, so that becomes like, this is what I'm supposed to eat. So in the wild, they've learned how to eat a variety of foods that they've been shown by their parents, their siblings, and the flock. And in captivity, they learn to eat whatever the humans give them. So a lot of junk food ends up in their diet. Seed is technically junk food. They can have like 15% of their diet can be seed, but and that's okay, but they really should be eating pellets. And then a lot of fresh vegetables, and a mash is a good way to do that, because you're adding moisture to their diet, and we don't know, but for sure, but that it's a lack of moisture and a lack of exercise that causes cloacal prolapses. So as they get older, in the wild, they're raising their young, they're flying around following the fruiting trees, that kind of thing. In captivity, living in a cage. They're taking whatever's offered them in a bowl. If you can get them to forage, you have them out of the cage and you have food hidden around, and they know it's going to be hidden around and they go looking for it. Don't make it too hard for them to find, but you wrap it up in some paper, whatever, just so they have to dig for it. That's a little more like it is in the wild, and that's better for them because they're doing some natural behaviors you would see parrots doing in the wild. Now, if they haven't been fed right from the beginning, and that is usually the breeder's fault, then they're going to have some taste for things that they shouldn't eat. And that's what happens when they come here. They don't have a good diet. This one came with a good diet. She eats Harrison's pellets, fresh vegetables, and a little fruit. That's a great diet for her. She's going on our mash too. She still gets that, but she gets our mash too. So, as they get older, with an improper diet, especially if, come here, we're not going to have you down there and just screaming. Come on. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do it. Don't do it. Be nice. You are just a loud beak. Yes, you are a loud beak. You're not like that when the cameras aren't out. No. So as they get older, they're going to develop some things. Now, like people, they can get gout, which is it's a crystallization of acid in their system. But with humans, it usually starts at the feet and works slowly upward. With them, if it gets into their system, it can go right into their organs and kill them. So this is, if you give them the right foods, there's less chance of gout. I think that liquid's important too. I know that with my gout, I have gout. So with my gout, if I drink a lot of liquid, it doesn't tend to flare up. What's a gout flare? That's when the little crystals of acid grow very large and touch a nerve ending. Can you imagine if I poured acid on your nerve endings? How about acid on your tongue? Like the hottest pepper you can imagine. Like a little habanero pepper juice right on your tongue? Well, that's kind of how it feels. Because that's what it is. But with them, they get it, it's going to kill them. So, fatty liver disease, gout, arthritis, these are all things that do come into them. Now, if you go to a vet and you have a bird you've rescued and you don't know how old it is, 9 times out of 10, that vet can't tell. They can tell in a necropsy, but they can't tell otherwise. And the reason for that is these guys are built terribly well. They just don't show age. And they live a long time. So you can make an educated guess how old they are, but that doesn't mean you're going to get even close. Yeah? What do you think, Lucy? Lucy. Lucy. You're so quiet today. It's so quiet. It's so quiet. Come on, let's look at you. Let's get the loose up. Come on. It's all right, Peach. Sit right there. You be nice to Peach. What are you doing? Thank you, Bob. It's all right. They're not going to hurt you. I don't know. This is the kind of situation when you bring your new bird in. As long as she's not freaking out too much, this is good for her. She likes me to pet her, but she's going to get too excited if I do it for too long. So, yes, I know. That's what you wanted, wasn't it? Don't eat my pocket, please. Thank you, Coco. Is that what you wanted? You want me to pet your head? Okay. Now, no, don't go raising your wings. Don't go raising your wings. No. not going to see a lot of difference in an older bird from a younger one. They seem to look more youthful as they grow old. If you feed them properly, if you give them pellets, Rowdy Bush or Harrison's, I would say Harrison's first, Rowdy Bush second, but if you can't afford the Harrison's, which we can't for 12 birds, okay? We can afford it for a couple of them, but because a 25-pound bag of Harrison's is $125. A 25-pound bag of Rowdy Bush is $49. That's a huge difference. So. And they're both good. It's just the Harrison's, I think, is just a little better. Probably taste a little better. But these guys only have 300 taste buds, so you want to sit on that hand here. Hold on a second. I have to shut her beak up sometimes. I do. I really do, Lucy. I do. Chloe, you leave her alone. Thank you, Bob. You okay? This is not your territory. This is not your territory. It's not. It's not. It's not your territory. No, that's the kind of territoriality you deal with. If a male and female mate, you end up with this kind of territoriality. You're not going to do that, Snowball. Snowball! You stay over there. You okay, Luce? You all right? You okay? Oh, Bob, be nice. I know you just want to preen her. She doesn't know that, though. I can tell you just want to preen her right now. I know. Bob just wants to preen you. He just... What, sugar? What, sugar bird? So, let's go over quickly the issues with each age. So when you have a baby, you want to get it as much as, you want to give it, all right, you want to give it as much experience as you possibly can, widen its experience, not just limited to one little cage, but actually seeing some parts of the world, maybe going into different rooms, seeing what it is outside. You know, once they can fly, then you have to put like an aviator harness on them, but give them more experience than just sitting in one room, okay? And that includes when they're babies. Give them the right food from the beginning, okay? Because it's hard. If you fed your kid Snicker bars every day, then it's going to be difficult later on when they get to be 6 or 7 years old to feed them. Here, I've got some good food for you. And you lay out a sandwich or something, and they don't, what's this? Where's my Snickers bar? You get the same thing from these guys, okay? So get that right in the beginning. And at this point, you don't have too many misbehaviors to deal with. I mean, they're going to chew. Of course, they're going to do that. But when they're very young, that's when you want to make sure you don't start the process of petting them improperly, because it becomes a habit. And once you start doing it, and they go through adolescence, you're going to get a whole bunch of problems, like Mr. Cruise Missile over there. He was treated that way. He went through his adolescence, and then he started cruise missiling at his former caretaker. And it was quite something to see. Big bird flying over at you with that beak, going for you. And he was just saying, "You're mine, don't mess with anybody else." Hey, Coco, you playing with wood? You playing with wood? I thought you'd have more fun today. You seem to be a little more scared today. Yeah. I thought you'd have more fun today. Maybe when we get the lights turned off later. When they go through adolescence, when they're going through that period, you have to be careful to only pet them on the head and watch for signs of mating behavior. With females, when they hunker down and start vibrating, or they turn their tail towards you, you've got to stop. And you've got to stop in a polite way. You don't just go, oh no, and push them away. That doesn't work. You just kind of let go, focus somewhere else until they calm down. Once they calm down just a little bit, then you can pick them up, talk to them, sit them on a perch, get them away and out of that mode. And once they're calmed down, you can bring them back over. That's a good way to deal with the adolescents. If they've got a toy and I've got to cover your face again. Here we go. He's scratching his head. He's not trying to get you. He's not trying to get you, baby. Just put your head down. You're okay. If they're trying to mate with toys, get that toy away from them. Give them something else until you find a toy they don't try to mate with. You don't need them getting territorial because they'll get territorial around that. If it's okay for a bird to have a box and dig in it occasionally, but if they start showing mating behavior, you start seeing more tail flaring or vibration from females, tail flaring by males, vibration by females, males trying to rub on you or something, then you need to take that away for a while. Or in some cases, just making it an empty box with nothing in it. That sometimes works. Giving them a lot of things to do. The salamander likes his area over here. He loves to have the movies on. He's probably already wanting me to put a movie on. Did you want a movie? Yeah. So, giving them a lot of things to do. Avoiding touching below the head. You'll see me do it. I have my reasons. I know what I'm doing. Except when you see me do it with her, that's a mistake. Because I'm transferring what I do to this one, who's already made it to me. Teaching them behaviors, teaching them when they're young, when they're adolescents, teaching them things like the step-up routine, doing little tricks. I mean, even dropping little tiny basketballs into hoops. Teaching them some behaviors, whether it's putting their wings out, they say big eagle. I just like big bird. Put up big bird. Okay, so they put their wings out, big bird. Teach them to do something like that. Yeah, that's right. I said big bird. See, she did big bird. Very good girl. That's a good girl. Secondary reinforcer, no food. Big bird, good girl. You did big bird, didn't you? Yeah, you did. So keep them interested. Hide their treats in their toys. Give them a lot of things to do. Okay, when they're adolescents, when they're older, they still need a lot of stimulation. They tend to stay active up until the moment they die, or close. So as they get older, if you know the bird's getting older, it's in its 50s or its 60s. If it's a large parrot and it's in its 50s or 60s. I know. Getting them to the vet more frequently for more checks. Just think of it like us. We have to go for that. They will too. Okay? I know, Snowball. I know. So, in summary, since they aren't in the wild, they don't have a lot, they aren't raised by their parents, they're not allowed to fly around and learn about the whole world. Try to give them the most experience. Try to give them the greatest amount of experiences you can. If you're going somewhere and you can take them, put an aviator harness on them, and take them with you. Put an aviator harness on them when you get there. Best not to have it on in the vehicle. You don't want them getting tied up and hurt. But put it on, take them to the park or wherever. Get them some experience if you want them to. You want them to be happy birds. Okay? Lucy, it's your first time, so Lucy, say goodbye to the people, Lucy. I know. You like it better when it's dark. I know. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
We welcome your feedback on our videos. We look forward to your insights, tips, questions, stories, and pictures. You can email us at cockatude@chloesanctuary.org, reach us on Twitter @ChloeSanctuary, and join with us on our Facebook Chloe Sanctuary page.
Science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.